Infinite Frontier issue 4, Joshua Williamson writing with like 3 or 4 artists. Too many.
Yeah,
Too many
we
to.
got we got Pelletier, off the top of my head, Zermanico. And there's one more. Who's the last one?
My rule is if there's more than 2, I don't write them down. It's because it's just too much. It's too much.
God damn, Pete. Disrespect to the art.
It's not a disrespect.
If there's more than 2, I don't want to memorize it.
I'll mention them when I'm looking at the credits page, but I'm not, because my list here also acts as the timestamps, and you don't want to make them too long, or they're just
True.
like unwieldy. Yeah. Okay, that's it. I'm just keeping it nice and neat, formatting wise.
Just the way you said it, though.
I mean, just quickly, I guess. Did you enjoy issues 2 and 3? Do you like what the book's been doing?
Yeah, it feels very much like this is a direct descendant of Crisis.
Crisis, like. Because we were comparing it last time a little bit to 52. It felt a little 52-ish.
Yeah, I mean, especially this issue, I definitely get that.
Yeah.
But just with all the multiversal shenanigans and all of that kind of stuff at play, this is definitely it has its basis in a Crisis. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't call this a Crisis itself because it's not that big, but
It's dealing with the fact that the worlds are more aware that crises have happened because before they haven't. So there's a lot of obviously direct references
all the
to
worlds at this point, as we learn. The other artist is Jesus Marino.
There you go.
There we go. But yeah, no, Williamson definitely, like, it all makes sense why John's handpicked him for Flash. There's a lot of similarities that Williamson likes to play with continuity and not just like changing things, but just like with the whole multiversal stuff in the last page here and what he does there, it felt very John Zane to me.
Yeah, I think, well, some of his ideas in Flash in the back half just weren't that good. I do also think part of it was that he was a victim of all the changes that were going on and maybe what he was like told he couldn't do and things like that.
Yeah.
So here we have Captain Carrot and Machine Head. So it kind of establishes Machine Head as a character because it's going to do something with him bigger later in the book.
This whole time I thought Machine Head was an actual machine, because that's the world they come from. So seeing without the helmet, very Darth Vader-esque, right?
Yeah. You don't actually get to see it though. Obviously, you only see him from behind to kind of.
Yeah. So you see him from behind, but the helmet's off, and I was like, oh, I thought he was an android. You know. So I'm trying to see if I can get any information on Machine Head, like what Earth 8 is actually supposed to be. I'm trying to see.
Earth 8.
No, it's just an analog of Iron Man.
Okay.
So from Earth 8, the Retaliators.
Okay.
But yeah, so I this whole time I didn't think there was a man in there, so that was a nice shock. But yeah, it sets off. Oh, okay. Earth 8 is where Lord Havoc. You remember that Bad Orlando Justice League book that we read?
Oh, way back? Yes. Justice League of America, yes.
So Lord Havoc and the Extremist comes from the same Earth. Machine Head's part of the Avengers. So there's a guy here that looks like, if you mix Captain America with Shining Knight, you know.
Okay.
It's so this is where the world the Machine Head. I thought Machine Head came from the all robot world. So that's where my confusion came from. But yeah, anyways, you got Machine Head and Captain Carrot having some.
Yeah, it's just setting up stuff for later. Just establishing they're there. President Superman's taking Thomas Wayne back to the White House on his Earth, where we get kind of a taste for just getting a bit more of his life and his first aid or whatever this woman's direct role is. You know, she's kind of into him, and Thomas Wayne notices this. Then we see that he's got kind of like a virtual fortress that he can kind of spawn in his office.
In the Oval Office,
yes.
I love that idea.
But they're trying to track down this Superman's Lex Luthor because he's probably behind the building of these devices, these ships, and they suit up and they go to find him and are surprised to find that he is already dead, that someone has already killed him before he could do anything or speak about who hired him or whatever else. It confirms on the next page that Chase did survive the explosion because obviously because it introduced last couple of issues that there were multiple DEOs and different Earths working together, and there's multiple of these ships. We were speculating that maybe this is just a different chase, but this confirms that it is the same chase. Right. Bones actually sent her there to kind of prove the threat that beings from other Earths and other universes could, prove to be for our main Earth, or Earth Zero. And what's interesting here is, so they've captured Alan Scott and Obsidian, and I actually kind of like the subtle touch here that the ship that they're about to leave on Silver, because the one that's in space that we heavily focused on last issue is Gold, just to make it very obvious that we're dealing with two different ships. And obviously all the people we know that are on that other ship, which I'm sure you were excited by when they all revealed themselves last issue. But yeah, so we have this what was this stupid name, this woman who works for him as
Extract.
Extract, yes. So they're going on the ship, they're going to load them on there. Bones was not going to go, but Cameron Chase, and actually one of my favorite little moments of this book in terms of like a lettering / art moment is after Bones has spent like several pages talking about how, look at this threat, all the greatest threats we've ever had have come from other worlds, other Earths, other universes. We have to fight back against this. We have to come to a solution. And it turns out that a lot of other worlds kind of agree with that sentiment. She shoots him in the leg and drags him onto the ship and says, no, we're all going together, because she needs answers. I love the way the lettering of the word bang is sort of like italicized up against the trajectory of where the bullets went. I really like that panel. I think that's a great panel. That's good.
I like that. I also like that he seems to shift between realities from Director Bones to, what was his original name when he was a villain?
Oh God, I can't remember.
With the cape, and stuff. Like he shifts between it. But real quick, I just want to focus on the page before that with all of the threats, right? And just about how this is almost like a history of DC.
Yeah, he brings up like a hologram of like all these various multiversal people. So there's like you get like Golden Age Wonder Woman, Silver Age Wonder Woman, sort of Rebirth-esque Wonder Woman. Same with Batman and Superman and a bunch of other characters.
But over on the right side of the page, though, you got you got Monitor, you got Parallax, you got Monarch, Alexander Luthor, you got Pandora, the Batman Who Laughs, Superman Prime, Extant, a Brainiac, Professor Zoom, Dr. Manhattan.
Yes.
Like, and then on the opposite side with over there where you got what's her name?
Perpetua.
From that was Perpetua, and Mixie, and then the Anti-Monitor, and it's just like, as a longtime DC reader, I like stuff like this, like these little Easter eggs. But it really is Williamson going like, yes, I am playing in the continuity sandbox.
Yeah.
And everything is going to pull together. So I trust Williamson at this point. Like, he's putting these characters in here.
I mean, I don't know how much I trust all of this is going to be relevant necessarily, but I do trust that this is him saying, all of this mattered. All of this happened. All of it matters, and it's all. Think of all of it as we're going forward, and not everything is going to be relevant ultimately, but
like the fact that we got Dr. Manhattan right there next to the Anti-Monitor, like just as a DC fan, like that's wild.
Yeah, it establishes them as both being equally part of DC's canon, as it were.
Right, and so
it's really neat.
But yeah, and then and we get to the fun stuff with Infinity Inc. on the gold ship with Roy. And like it can't be a mistake that's why these members of the Justice Society, right? Like these were the next generation. This is the Atom Smasher and Damage and Wildcat 2 and Power Girl, Jade. They don't have a home.
Yeah, because it says they sort of got together because they were trying to like figure out. Everyone came back after everything got reset. And when they were back at the JSA headquarters, they got ambushed by Extract, and they all ended up on this ship. Although Jade technically ended up on the outside of the ship, but obviously was taken aboard. Because they're ready to fight Roy. They recognize he's a Black Lantern, but then she recognizes that it's Roy, and he calms down. And they're like, "Hey, why don't you just take the ring off?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know if I'll stay alive if I take the ring off." And I just realized I just had a vision that my daughter's alive, so I'm not leaving until I've like met her and dealt with that. So
yeah, I love too that when she mentions like we were on the Titans and the Outsiders together. Like that's my era when I started reading comics. Like so just shouts out like that a small line that doesn't mean a whole lot, but to me it's a big, reference point to when I started reading comics.
It makes it a lot more enjoyable when the all of the history that certainly from the last several decades is still intact to some extent. Yeah. It feels so frivolous when they just throw it all away and start from scratch again constantly, which is part of why New 52 was so annoying. But
right, and so just that small little reference there, and him bringing up his daughter still being alive, like in that tie-in, what we know from Catwoman, and how's that going to play in? So, but yeah, then the gold ship gets to Earth Omega.
Yeah, which I mean, they don't know where the destination is. No. One of them says, "No, we need to find out where this leads." So they press the button, and then it's like Earth Omega. Oh shit! And then immediately Roy's like, "Hey, I saw this in a vision. This is like Darkseid's here." And we see Barry still in the big, cosmic hamster wheel. Psycho Pirates making him do this. And then out of nowhere, the silver ship that we saw take off from Earth Zero crashes into them. It's just beamed here as well.
It like almost phases into them.
Yeah. The front of the ship just gets, like disintegrated basically. Like presumably most of our main characters are further back in the ship, so it's fine. But do we have this big crash landing? All the sound effects of the Maydays, which actually transitions nicely back into President Superman and Flashpoint Batman, who are in like his fortress, and they've got the Machine Head. Oh no, sorry, not the fortress. They're in the House of Heroes.
The House of Heroes.
Machine Head's basically built one of these ships out of the plans they got from the dead Lex Luthor's hideout, and you're like, okay, so they're going to go and they're all going to converge at Earth Omega, and that's where he wants to go. And then all of a sudden, there's an emotional beat for Batman. I'm skipping over. I'll go back to that in a second. Yeah. But all of a sudden, Machine Head swerves. He makes a heel turn. It turns out that him and a lot of other characters from various worlds have all agreed that they shouldn't be mingling, and all it does is create problems and crisis and chaos. So they've all agreed. Now, how much this connects to the DEO stuff, I don't know for sure yet. Maybe it will, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's completely separate. But yeah, he attacks the rest of the Justice Incarnate, and he beams aboard like a bunch of his allies, and we see like a Joker from an Earth where he's a Yellow Lantern. We see
Magog, who kicked off last issue.
Yeah, we see a Savannah, right? I think that's
Superwoman from Earth 3.
From Earth 3.
Doomsday from the Action Comics run that Morrison did. Where he's that's the guy whose head gets cut off right there.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him, but I'll take your word for it. And
then Dr. Fate, when they try to make him like an edgy 90s Liefeld character. So yeah, again, this is the type of page that I feel it feels very Johnsy, where not just because you're pulling all these characters from different things, but like Machine Head's whole reason is we fought a secret war and I lost and I don't lose. And Earth Zero is the problem. This is all, so we're going to basically take out Earth Zero and disconnect everything and go back to being separate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I read it.
No, that's more or less how I read it as well. I'm curious to see how this plays in. We got the big reveal last issue of the young JSA characters all being back. This issue we got this team of extra villains, this third party that are up to no good as well. So it is very Johnsy in the sense that every issue seems to have a big reveal towards the end that we can really sink our teeth into and go ooh and ah, and it makes some amount of sense, at least so far. I do want to focus a little bit on the Thomas Wayne moment though, because he's feeling kind of guilt. He doesn't want to go back to Earth Zero because he doesn't want to. He everything he tried to do in Tom King's Batman run, he feels guilty. He tried to do all this, and he doesn't want to see the damage he caused. And he gets a glimpse, though. He sees Batman with the Bat family, who are kind of reformed at this point, and they are, we've been seeing this in the Bat books, that they are more unified again. And he's like, hey, he's got a family. He's actually in a better place. and he sees like a visual of like all the different Batmen, right? He sees Batman Beyond's in the background. We recognize a few of the others, but he sees that all these different Earths all have a Batman. They're all Bruce Wayne, and he comes to this realization because his whole thing is that he was like, no, because of what happened to his version of Thomas and Martha, he became Batman, and he felt that Bruce shouldn't be Batman. He should be Bruce, and that he shouldn't have to have this this calling that he's dedicated himself to. And he has this moment where he looks up and realizes that he was always going to be Batman. Like, he's Batman in all these Earths. Like, my Earth where I became Batman is the exception. My Earth's the oddity.
And that one doesn't exist anymore because he's a fragment of it. So
he smiles as he says this and sort of realizes that no, my son was always going to be Batman. I found that an oddly sweet moment, and I think what I like about this, and what's so good here about the editorial of this, is that sometimes, and especially in New 52, you got the sense that, okay, you may have like a guest starring character from another book who'll pop into something, but you got the feeling that they weren't allowed to have any real character development until they were back in the book they were supposed to be in, because they'd be too worried about, like, that has to happen in the main book that the character's from, because they can't have development, because otherwise the readers won't, everything has to be self-contained. And I think, in the same way that, it can feel like almost like a filler appearance where they'll show up, but they won't do anything of note other than just have like a fun appearance because they can't have any advancement. I kind of like here that, a character like Thomas Wayne can just kind of continue elsewhere and have an important story beat for themselves. And this actually makes it more exciting that if he ever does meet regular Batman again, if he ever meets our Bruce Wayne again, it'll be informed by this realization that he's had, where we'll go, oh, this is actually interesting because he came to this conclusion that you were always going to be Batman, and I was wrong to try and change that. I was wrong to try and alter that.
And just the idea that he looks at him with the Bat family, he goes, no, he has a family.
Yeah.
It's not this lonely pursuit that, when we saw him pop up in King's Run, of him trying to convince him not to be Batman anymore because of all the pain and that it causes. And I feel like, again, that's Williamson here adding tags onto things that make, to me, that makes that King stuff pop a little bit better because of the realization he has here.
Whenever I get around to someday rereading that King run, I think I'll like some of this Flashpoint Batman stuff better because I know where he ultimately leads up. It does improve it a little bit, not much, but a little bit.
No, but a little, and it was a really nice moment, and we all know how I am with Batman stuff, but just hear him seeing his, no, this is what he's meant for, almost like it's a destiny thing. Like there's always got to be a Batman, and on his Earth, like you said, it was Thomas, and those circumstances are far worse than most of these other ones, right? That we're looking at here. So, but it was just really, really good, and then just that heel turn with Machine Head. That now that I look at his face, he's got a Tony Stark mustache, So
he's also got a bit of a Deadpool sort of thing going, where he's not in the best of health by the looks of it. I will say I think this issue has probably the best emotional peak because of that Batman moment, and I think issue 3 might be my favorite overall for plot because it just introduced so many cool things with the JSA characters. It kind of felt like it was starting to come together because it revealed the DEO stuff, what Bones was up to. But I'm enjoying it. I think it's a really fun, wider continuity book that's playing with a lot of characters who don't otherwise get to be used as often, and that's kind of neat. So anything that can come out of this for a lot of these characters that we like and we want to see more of, I'm all for it. So the art is kind of the same story as it's been the whole book, which is obviously get multiple artists, it's inconsistent. Paul Thier is definitely the weakest of the artists, typically, I would say. At least just for me.
But I still like it, though. I like that I can recognize Pelletier from, when it does take over. But I would say that Marino and Zermanico complement each other a little bit more.
Yeah. I like I say, my favorite moment is probably the gunshot from Chase to Bones in the leg. I think it's a really great moment just from a beat in the story, but also just the way it's done with the art and the lettering. But a lot of good beats in this one. Excited to see where it goes. So, and excited to see like, you know, how this dark side stuff plays out, because, you know, Chase points out that he said, you know, the what do you call him, Atom thing we did.
Wait, what?
Captain Atom.
Yeah.
He said dark side is before he died.
Right.
So I'm, you know, really curious to see all the dark side stuff playing out.
Gotcha. I don't know if you're referring to one of the Justice League or Justice Society members.
I know. There's so many.
You got Atom Smasher, you got Damage.
Yeah.
He has an Atom, and I was like, wait, which one are we talking about? Because they were also talking about Darkseid, which I do like that Williamson is playing into the. There's only one Darkseid, right? Like Darkseid's not a multiversal. Like there's one Darkseid, and I kind of like that. Like he's a Nexus being, if you will.
Yes, if we put all this into wrestling terms again, if Darkseid was to come out to some entrance music, it would be the Chetney Hawkins, The One and the Only, which is a very British pop song. But if you've seen the movie Moon, it features in that because it's ironic in that movie. I am the one and only.
Yeah, that's very ironic. When you
Yes. All right, Matt, what are you rating?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. 8.5. It's a really solid. Digging a lot of the big stuff that it's doing. I think Joshua Williamson is actually a surprisingly good fit for this type of story with all these different characters. Because I was a little bit down on him towards the end of Flash, but clearly between this and Robin, he's got a lot of juice left in him.